The suburban house sits quietly under the weight of a heavy, suffocating silence. Inside, a young boy screams about a war he never actually fought.
His mother weeps with a mixture of terror and strange, hidden delight. We are told this is a miracle of the human spirit's endurance. They claim the soul recycles itself like water through an infinite stream.
But look closer at the shadows stretching across the linoleum kitchen floor. The air smells of stale coffee and desperation, not mystical incense. This is not a spiritual awakening, but a frantic grasp for significance. The modern world has stripped away our myths and left us hollow. So we turn to the children to fill the void with magic.
The parents listen to the boys babbling with an intense, predatory focus.
They parse every mumbled word for a connection to a tragic history. A mention of a plane becomes a pilot shot down over the Pacific. A fear of water transforms into a sailor drowning in the Atlantic.
They are building a puzzle where the pieces do not actually fit.
The narrative is constructed brick by brick through subtle, unintentional coercion.
The child seeks approval and learns quickly what triggers the positive response.
He mentions a loud noise, and his father's eyes light up. He talks about smoke, and his mother gasps with profound validation. This feedback loop creates a script that the child unwittingly memorizes.
The story becomes more detailed with every retelling and every interview.
Soon, the local news crews arrive with their bright, blinding lights.
They park their vans on the lawn and trample the flower beds.
The journalist adjusts his tie and prepares to sell the fantasy.
He does not ask hard questions or check the contradictory dates. He needs the emotional hook to keep the viewers from changing channels. The camera lens frames the child as a messiah of memory.
But behind the scenes, the dynamic is far colder and uglier.
Parents are often struggling with their own unfulfilled, mundane lives.
This miracle makes them special and elevates them above their neighbors.
They are no longer just suburbanites. They are guardians of the eternal. The famous researcher arrives in a coat that smells of old libraries.
He carries a tape recorder and a notepad filled with leading questions.
He is not a scientist, but a collector of comforting anomalies.
He nods enthusiastically before the child even finishes a vague sentence.
His methodology is flawed from the very moment he enters the room. He is looking for confirmation, not the cold, hard, objective truth. He shows the child pictures of deceased strangers and watches for reactions.
A random point of a finger is recorded as a definitive identification. The data is massaged until it fit the predetermined spiritual conclusion.
The researcher ignores the thousands of misses to highlight the single hit.
This is the economics of belief operating in plain sight.
Books are written that will sell millions of copies to the grieving.
Documentaries are produced to comfort those terrified of the encroaching dark.
The child is merely the raw material for this industrial complex.
He is a product being refined, packaged, and sold to the masses.
But consider the psychological weight placed upon these small, fragile shoulders. The boy is told he is actually a dead mechanic or soldier. He is forced to carry the trauma of a stranger's violent death. His own identity is suppressed to make room for the ghost. He stops playing with his toys to answer questions about the afterlife. His childhood is sacrificed on the altar of his parents' vanity. The tragedy is that he eventually believes the lie himself.
Memories feel real because he has rehearsed them 1,000 times.
He starts to miss a family he never actually knew. The parents eventually track down the family of the deceased person.
The procession towards the residence was described as a beautiful, healing reunion of lost souls, marking the end of their long journey.
In reality, it is a cruel intrusion into a stranger's grief.
The grieving mother opens her door to find a camera crew.
She is presented with a child claiming to be her dead son.
The emotional manipulation in that moment is sharp and profoundly cruel.
She wants to believe it because the pain of loss is unbearable.
She looks into the boy's eyes and desperately searches for recognition.
The parents of the child stand back and watch with proud smiles.
They have successfully colonized another family's tragedy for their own narrative.
The researcher scribbles furiously, documenting the tears as scientific proof.
But the timeline of events rarely matches up under scrutiny. The details of the death are often public knowledge, available in libraries.
The child could have overheard a television program or a conversation. The human mind is a sponge that absorbs and remixes information.
We underestimate the imagination of children and the power of suggestion. The skeptical voice is drowned out by the chorus of believers. Anyone asking for evidence is labeled a cynic or a spiritual void. The narrative protects itself by attacking the character of the doubter.
But follow the money flowing through the veins of this story.
talk show appearances pay for the new car in the driveway. The book deal secures the college fund that the ghost never needed. The fame provides a dopamine hit that becomes impossible to give up.
The child becomes a performer in a play he did not write.
He learns to accentuate the details that make the adults cry.
He suppresses the normal memories of his own life to maintain the act. As he grows older, the memories inevitably begin to fade away. The brain matures, and the fantasy can no longer be sustained. The researcher stops calling when the new details stop coming.
The cameras move on to the next miracle child in another town.
The parents are left with a teenager who is confused and empty. He wonders why he is no longer special or worthy of attention. The ghost has departed, leaving behind a profound sense of abandonment.
He struggles to form an identity that is purely his own. The world moves on, indifferent to the damage left in the wake. We consume the story because it made us feel less afraid. We use the child as a shield against the fear of death. The reality of oblivion is too terrifying for most to face.
So we invent these elaborate systems of return and cosmic justice.
We demand that the universe cares about our individual, small existence. But the universe is vast, cold, and largely indifferent to us. The cycle of life is biological, not a mystical theater production.
The mud claims the body, and the electrical impulses simply stop. That is the gritty, pragmatic truth that we spend billions avoiding.
The reincarnation industry is a monument to our collective denial.
It exploits the innocent to comfort the fearful and the insecure. The researcher builds his career on the shaky foundation of anecdotes.
The parents build their identity on the stolen valor of the dead.
The audience buys the ticket to escape the finality of the grave.
But the curtain always falls, and the theater eventually goes dark. The child is left alone in the silence of his own room. He looks in the mirror and tries to find his own face. He tries to remember a playground instead of a battlefield.
But the script has been etched too deep into his mind.
He is a vessel that was filled with other people's desires. The tragedy is not that he died in a past life. The tragedy is that he was never allowed to live this one.
He is a living monument to the selfishness of the adult world. We devoured his future to feed our hunger for the past. The myth of the returning soul is beautiful, seductive, and dangerous. It allows us to ignore the urgency of the single life we have. If we come back, then our mistakes today matter much less. It creates a moral hazard that devalues the present moment.
But if this is it, then every second is infinitely precious.
The harsh reality forces us to take responsibility for our time. We must accept that the screen eventually fades to black.
There is no sequel, no reboot, and no second chance.
That truth is harder to sell, but essential to accept.
The child deserves to be just a child, not a ghost.
He deserves the freedom to write his own unscripted story.
We must put down the tape recorders and turn off the cameras. We must let the dead bury the dead and leave them there. Only then can the living truly begin to live their lives.